All right, everyone. Tuesday morning. This is the morning briefing from the Celtic Way. Tuesday means that Kevin is with me, Hamish, and Tony. Hello, Kevin. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Lovely day. Great time to be a Celtic fan.
Magic, isn't it? It's really good. Stuff to discuss today as well, Tony. You've written about Idah.
I have indeed. I'll put it in the comment section for you there. Just ties in nicely with the headline, Idah nearing 100% sharpness for Celtic. And I've just written about the kind of horses for courses approach that Brendan Rodgers will take with Kyogo and Idah. And I just think it'll serve Celtic very well. And the premise of that was being when Idah did his knee slide after making it 3-2 and he ran off the pitch, he embraced Kyogo. He ran to Kyogo, didn't he? All the players were chasing him and he kind of ran to the side and Kyogo was the first to kind of celebrate with him. And I'm just sort of saying that the fact that the manager's going to rotate the two of them and just pick, probably on a game-by-game basis, on who prefers up front. And then Idah's comments yesterday saying it's a friendly rivalry, we want the best for each other, we just want to score goals for Celtic. I'm just sort of saying that kind of managerial mentality. You can understand why now Brendan Rodgers said he wanted two number ones for the number 9 position. And I'm sort of saying that mentality, that's something that the two of them can embrace. That was kind of premise of it, you know. So you can have a read at that, guys, but I was just sort of making the point that we're now seeing the clinical side of Idah, because he's 3 goals in 2 games, should be 4, hadn't Lewis Palmer not strayed offside, right? But the 3 goals, the technique, they're real strikers' finishes. See, strikers will be proud of them. You know, the spin away from Forrest and pointing to where he wants the ball, 1-touch finish. The cut back from Kuhn against Falkirk, that's a Kyogo goal, isn't it? That's a Stockton trademark Kyogo goal. And the last one, the touch in between the 2 defenders, just exquisite. Slots it away. Just 3 really good goals and the mark of a striker now saying, yep, give me that. I can carry this on my shoulders. I can cope. That's what I'm seeing anyway. And you said yesterday he'll score goals for Celtic. You don't see him not scoring goals for Celtic. I've said in the piece he will score goals aplenty for Celtic.
I mean, he's here to play, and it is. I genuinely believe Rodgers when he says he has 2 number 1 strikers. I don't think it's a case of Kyogo being the main man and he does going to play off the bench. I think now we're going into these 3 matches a week. Well, take the next 3 matches, for example. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what Rodgers does. St Johnstone away, Dortmund away, Ross County away, a lot of travelling there. Quite a difficult period for the team in terms of getting to these matches, and as I say, a lot of travelling. I think Idah's going to start at least one of the games. Potentially, does Idah start the 2 domestic games and then Kyogo against Dortmund? What do you think, Kevin?
I'm always... I just think this is a slightly risky strategy. You know, if you've got... I agree with you. Idah has to start at least one of them. And they are 2 number 1 strikers. And Idah, having been seen as, you know, more of a battering ram, somebody who plays the game differently from Kyogo, as Tony was saying there, a couple of those goals he scored were Kyogo-esque. Right, so right off as a Celtic fan, I don't mind who has the number 9 jersey, whether it's one or the other. And at this stage, I'm not. I think both of them have got an equal claim. I can't remember the last time I felt like that we've got 2 number 1 strikers, each of whom I have equal confidence in. However, you know, let's say Idah plays against St Johnstone, scores a couple. Let's say, you know, he then keeps his place against Ross County, does the business again, and then Kyogo comes in for Borussia Dortmund. There's an issue there.
Dortmund in the middle, isn't it, between the 2?
Sorry. So let's say, Kyogo comes in for Borussia Dortmund, which will be a taxing game, and I suspect that Idah would, depending on how the game goes, will get the last 20, 25 minutes. Kyogo will be asked to run as much as he can to put the Dortmund defence under pressure whenever we've got the ball or they've got the ball. The problem there is that, if he does scoring goals, and I, given these pattern of goal scoring towards the end of last season, I think he'll go on and he'll kind of score in a chain. So, you then drop him and bring back Kyogo. It's a delicate balance. I know the two of them, they're hugging and kissing each other, and all in the garden's rosy. It's risky. It's risky. You really, really got to kind of, you've got to be, very, very knowledgeable of your players and your players' psyche. The other thing is that the midfielders, they do have different approaches to the game. So that means that the midfielders who are going to be supplying them know that maybe in a game-by-game basis, they're going to have to alter their approach slightly, depending on who's playing up front. I want, and I don't have the answer to this. Look, I don't have the answer. I know the traditional way is one guy's in the team, he scores goals, he keeps in the team until he's either injured or loses form, and then the other guy comes in. That's obviously not perfect either. But there isn't a perfect way. There's never been a successful football team when all 25 players are absolutely delighted with their role, including the ones that aren't really getting a game. But that's where the manager comes in. Just from the outside, it's a happy problem, but you've got to keep. When was the last time we had two number one strikers like this? Okay, we had two number ones when we played with two up front with Sutton and Larsson.
Yeah,
that's different. But when was the last time in this system where we've got a lone striker, where we've got two with an equal claim on the place?
There was a period when we had, I'm trying to think, Roger's first spell, and it was like Griffiths and Dembele. But then again, when Griffiths had his injury, Dembele very quickly became the main man after that hat-trick against Rangers. And listen, it might be that one of these guys becomes the main man this season. I mean, you wouldn't put it past either of them. So I think it's an interesting point you make. If Idah plays at the weekend and scores, can you take him out of the team for Dortmund? I mean, Kyogo equally, you'd say the same thing.
Listen, competition's good.
Yeah, it's great.
It's going to just bring the best out of the two of them. It has to. And then it's up to the manager then, Kevin, to make that call and to say to the players and the other, starters, we're going to play this way because he's playing, or we're playing this way because he's playing. It is what it is. And and it's not any slight on Kyogo, because despite the fact that he's not scored in some games and he has missed a couple of sitters, his link-up play and all other stuff's been of a high bar. So we're not dismissing that out of the hand. It's not as if he's not contributed. That's what I mean. Even if he's not scoring, strikers are always judged on scoring. But Kyogo has contributed when he's not scored. So the manager's going to look at that as well. But just feel there was a wee bit of adjustment for Adam Idah, and he said it himself, didn't he? He's getting used to getting back at training, and because his pre-season was disrupted with the whole move from Norwich. So now you can see he's getting fitter. And you can see that I do include the goal against Hearts only because it was the quickness of thought that got him in there to score. And he said himself that was the one that gave him his confidence back, and the one that he said, right, I know I can do this. Now, I'm comparing stats. Kyogo's got 75 career goals for Celtic. Adam Idah's got 12. I know he's a long way off that, but he's on his way to hitting those kind of figures. You know what I mean? And Hamish, you said it yesterday. You see Adam Idah being a Celtic striker for years, don't you?
Yeah.
Or you just see him there for a while because he loves the club, he likes the club, and he's just fitted in very well. And you cannot underestimate his contribution or Kyogo's since they've come into this Celtic team. And I think it's a delightful headache for the manager to have. Kevin, a risky strategy, I get that. And my thoughts, sometimes I'm a I'm a yellow jersey man, so if you've got the jersey, so I would say on Saturday start with Idah. That would be my thoughts, right? For Borussia Dortmund, I don't know. My head's spinning, probably like the managers.
Well, Pete's making a good point, Tony. He said, and I agree with this totally. I trust Brendan to know what's best. And because the thing is, we think we know about Kyogo and Idah, but we only know a fraction of what Brendan Rodgers knows because he sees them every day. He sees what they're good at, and he'll know what they're capable of doing in a given match.
I think Kyogo has properties and strengths which will always surprise overseas competition, overseas clubs who are not who don't see him in action all the time and don't know his game. We saw it against Atletico and Lazio, even in patches against Slovan. These defences aren't. I also when he's riding shotgun with Idah out in the left, right. These defences will not be accustomed to being harried and harassed and pulled out of position like that. And the way that Rodgers has done a great job in Kyogo and adding this extra dimension to his game. I know that we were expressing, along with others, some doubt as to why Kyogo seemed to be playing a little bit deeper, but it's not really. He's kind of darts off the defence 10 yards in and then straight back in again when the defence isn't looking for it, or he'll collect the ball, get rid of it, and then start running back into the box. It's when it works, it's amazing, and it always can. No matter how good a defence is, it has the potential to catch them out. So I think Kyogo will start against Dortmund. I loved Idah's goal against Slovan. See, when you watch it back again, it's not that he just signals to Forrest that he actually almost has a little conversation. He kind of passes him.
Yeah,
away. I'm going that way. He's always saying, "This is where I'm going. Watch, just make sure that the timing of the pass is okay, because obviously the timing of the pass is everything, or else he's offside." Yeah. But it's brilliant. I mean, the game intelligence, as they call it, is tremendous. It's not just I want the ball, because he doesn't want the ball then. He's still 20 yards away from where he wants the ball. He's just saying to Forrest, "This is where I'm going." Be ready for it.
That's what I'm talking about. It's the quickness, I thought. Though. Yeah. That's all done in seconds, right? That's all done in, you go.
And what a finish.
He picks up the ball, the two of them are right next to each other. So there's clearly been something shouted, "Go there, I'm darting in there, release me," type thing, it's a brilliant finish. Because it's not easy.
Plus, the other thing is, he's a big lad. So see when he starts that run, I was watching it and thinking, well, there's too much ground to cover. There's two defenders over at that side. It's not going to happen. Forrest is going to hang on to the ball for too long, before the defence is aware of what's happening. But he covers that ground. He covers that ground pretty rapidly for a big guy. You could say that the Slovan defenders, are so punch-drunk and have been run ragged that they were slow. But I just don't think they reacted to, this arching run on the outside that this big 6-footer's making.
Yeah, he's fabulous. I mean, I made the point earlier that I'm wary of us slipping into this idea of Kyogo being the great footballer and then Idah just being the big lump, because Idah is a hell of a player, and he's
an intelligent player.
He's got pace and his first touch. I mean, if you compare him to the last big target man we had, Georgios Giacomakis, who I loved, by the way, I think he did more to his game than Giacomakis. So it's going to be great going forward.
See, if you think he's a lump, you're not watching.
Lazy kind of thing to say, isn't it?
His footwork at Ibrox last season in the 3-3 game was similar to his footwork at the weekend against Falkirk.
Yeah, it's that fleet-footedness that you're talking about, and he's got the ability to do that. And do you know what, Hamish? I hope people do see him as a big lump. That's the element of surprise, as Kevin's talking about there. He caught the Slovak defence out. People just think he's a battering ram, he's a target man. he's a hell of a footballer, and the parts are coming together. You know, look at what he's done so far. Those 12 goals, right? 9 of them helped you win the title in the Scottish Cup last season. He scored 2 goals against Rangers already. He scored minutes of coming on in a Champions League phase match when people said, "Nah, he's not what's required for the Champions League." You know, he scored a double when you were struggling. I mean, granted, a lot of that was down to the efforts of Nicholas Kuhn. We can't discount that, but you know, it came alive when he needed to come alive because he was starved of service. So it's coming together nicely for him. And as you say, I think it's wonderful that we have the choice between Kyogo and Idah. I really am loving that. And like the commenter said, you've got to trust the manager's judgment. I've said before, everything he does, all his stock's laid on how the guys are performing in training. He studies their behaviours, he studies what they're doing, and he also looks at the opposition and thinks, okay. Now, I think all of us on the week before the weekend, if we adopt that horses for courses approach, we knew that Idah was going to start because we all felt it, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
I think the man, without seeing them at training, as you said, Hamish, but I think the manager's in tune with that as well. You know, he kind of knows who's going to start certain games, and like you, Kevin, I think Idah will start on Saturday, and I still think Kyogo is the man for the big occasion, and he'll start in Kyogo in Dortmund. And I think he'll be telling them right now to get their head around that, so that they're in that zone, as they call it, whatever that means, by the time both of these games come around.
I that's the way I'm going, and Steve's making that a point that I think we all feel. You know, front three of Kuhn, Kyogo, Idah, and Dortmund going to need pace on the break. I think Idah will start against St Johnstone. Just I don't know what the pitch is like at the moment at McDiarmid Park, but it's not often very good. So I think it makes sense for Idah there. Kyogo against Dortmund. Bearing in mind, whoever starts, the other one's going to come off the bench, so it's not as if we're not going to get to see them. And then I actually think for Ross County that you might see Idah again. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the way it goes with the manager. I just want to move it on because there's a couple of comments that I think are about an interesting subject. And Jerry asking why we're playing it at 5:45 on Saturday. Basically, the game on Saturday is part of this new television deal that's only come in this season. That means that Premier Sports are showing Celtic League games. So this Saturday's game is on TV, but it's not on Sky Sports, it's on Premier Sports. And I think basically their slot, rather than a lunchtime slot, they're quite keen on a Saturday evening slot, as we've seen with the Cup semi against Aberdeen that was put in for that slot. That was announced yesterday. So that's why the game's at that time. The other comment we got in was Green Yonder saying Dortmund play on Friday night. They play on Friday night, and I think they've got Bochum on Friday night, so they've got like an extra day effectively on us. And you just wonder, like, could that Celtic game against St Johnstone have gone on Friday night? You know, that would have been a bit of an event. I don't really see a huge difference between Friday night and Saturday evening, and it would have given us an extra day to prepare for the game. But I guess sensible suggestions like that don't really happen in Scottish football, guys, do they?
No, I mean, I don't. 5:45 on a Saturday, Perth doesn't really make too much odds. It's not a bad time. You know, those who want to go out later on, doesn't affect them. There's a little bit of an atmosphere. They're probably adjudged to. They'll maybe get a better TV audience because it's quite a nice time. Whatever you were doing on a Saturday during the day you're home from, and you're preparing to go out on a Saturday evening. I agree with you, yeah. I just wonder if more lobbying needs to be done, and it's not just us. Rangers have complained about this before, although with less justification. You wonder if there have been meetings between those clubs who are going to be involved in Europe before the season, coming together and saying, can we build in some flexibility on certain games when we're playing in Europe? maybe that has happened. Maybe the TV contracts are so watertight, copper bottomed, that there isn't any flexibility. But again, this is another thing. That's an extremely good question. Other people, Celtic fans, will be asking that. Normal businesses, listening to their customers' concerns, would respond and say, well, this is why, or no, we'll take that on board and we're going to do something about it. But you never get any communication, meaningful communication. There's no such thing as dialogue with the way that Celtic are run. This is what's going to happen. You'll take it. And by the way, we're winning, so shut up. That's the model that Celtic have always deployed. And the reason why they get away with it is because people like me allow them to, because I'm a schmuck. And they know it. They can exploit me, they can manipulate me because it's the Celtic.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting kind of point to raise. But can we talk about Cameron Carter-Vickers, Tony? Because there's a bit of chat that it was just a bit of a throwaway line in one of the papers last night. But I think the line read that Carter-Vickers is expected to sit out the game this weekend. We're hopeful that he'll be back for the Dortmund game, but that may be touch and go as well. So it may be that we see a partnership of Scales and Trusty this weekend and potentially in Dortmund as well, eh?
Well, do you know what? I don't think you take any risk with Cameron Carter-Vickers on Saturday at all. You try and get him up to speed for the Dortmund game. And if Trusty has to come in, then fine. I remember going to Ibrox last September with Lagerbielke and Scales, and everybody was predicting 3-4-0 and 5-0 and going to get cuffed. So again, place my trust in the manager in terms of if Trusty's going to play these two games, you'll be telling him right now. Yeah, and whether you had reservations about Trusty after Sunday, it's gone. Celtic won. He looked a bit ring rusty, that's no doubt about it. Looked like somebody who needs games. So if he's to be thrown in to Perth on Sunday, then you've got to get behind him, haven't you? And if he's thrown into Dortmund, then the guy has played in the English Premier League, so he surely has qualities that he can bring. Snap judgments are fine, but you need a bigger game sample, don't you, to make any kind of judgment on a player. Granted, on Sunday, you were like me, Hamish, and I don't know if you were the same, Kevin. I wanted to come away raving about Trusty and Valle, and I was just disappointed that I wasn't. Not like when Arnie Engels played, you came away raving about him. That kind of, first outing, you sort of said to yourself, okay, fine, but people need time to settle in, don't they? But mark my words, if Trusty's playing on Saturday and Dortmund, the manager will be telling him right now, and by the time Saturday comes around and Tuesday comes around, he'll puff his chest out like the rest and say, right, let's have it. And he's got a lot of experience to, he's played for, he was signed by Arsenal, he's played for Sheffield in the English Premier League, and he was signed for 6 million. I know price tags are no justification of players' ability or not, but he's here for a reason.
He'll be playing alongside a guy who's really in form as well, Liam Scales, if that is the case. Henrik McLaughlin bringing up Mike Naropski, hard no for Naropski, then he's asking. Brendan Rodgers doesn't fancy Naropski at all. Stephen Welsh started ahead of Naropski at the weekend, so he is our fifth choice defender, centre back, quite clearly. I know he came on, but Brendan Rodgers just doesn't fancy Mike Naropski, rightly or wrongly, guys. So I guess we'll wait and see. And McLaughlin just bringing up the fact that both Scales and Trusty are both left-sided, so it'll be interesting to see who would play on which side. What would you make of all that, Kevin?
I wasn't too perturbed by Baye and Trusty. Those two positions are quite, they're quite isolated. When I say that, you go into a midfield. You're one of a 5-man unit. Your performance can be absorbed. It can be, you can break yourself into a unit that has 5 spread across the park. I'm not saying that about but any of our midfielders. They all do a very good job. But when you're a fullback or a central defender, there's a lot of focus on you. There are fewer places to hide. Also, I mean, I don't know if it was my imagination, but and I don't want to take away from Falkirk's display, which was great, given the circumstances and the division that separates us. But that was a foul for their first goal, was it not?
Ryan was saying that yesterday.
I mean, it's clear. He's manhandled. It's not just like a kind of tackle. He's basically been thrown in the box, and I'm waiting for the whistle.
I'm going to rewatch it right now, guys, because I'll be honest, I actually haven't properly watched it, so I'll rewatch it. I'll let you know what I think.
So yeah, I as you were saying, Tony, you got to give them a bit of time. They're coming in. It doesn't matter who they're playing. Ring rusty. There's no places to hide. I'll reserve judgment. I didn't think either of them were bad. Bailly in particular looks an intelligent footballer.
I did say that his header for Paulo Bernardo's equaliser was a brilliant knockdown. Really, talk about that game intelligence side, and that's what made that goal, because that
was lovely.
Yeah, that was just go and have a bash at that, and Bernardo duly obliged. I mean, there was depending on what you think. I thought at first it was a foul, and then I'm just thinking, does Vi do the wrong thing instead of try to grapple with your man and he gets out-muscled? But he is kind of manhandled is probably the right phrase. He is a bit manhandled, so I don't know what the referee did see or didn't see in then, but I'm of the opinion you sometimes get them or you don't. And I think on this occasion they didn't. And the manager said the second goal he thought he was a bit weak because he gets kind of palmed off or handed off, doesn't he? Fended off.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it, you would say there was possible fouls in both Falkirk's goals. But then that's...
So what do you think, Hamish?
I don't think it's a foul, I'll be honest. I wouldn't have been a ridiculous shout.
I only saw it the once. No, I only saw it the once. So.
Yeah.
And I think
Ryan felt that way yesterday, Kevin. So
I think he's been given the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, it's not the worst. I mean, it's not the most egregious of decisions. I just thought I'd have given it, but there.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting debut for Valle. Good moments, bad moments. Well, good moments, maybe moments you would look at and want a bit more. But he's going to get more opportunities to play. It's going to be interesting to see how much Rodgers rotates the team for, the 2 domestic games we've got coming up. He's clearly not going to do anything like he did on Sunday, but we might have to make changes because we've got so many players on the fringes that deserve to be playing but aren't playing. Like Paulo Bernardo didn't start either of the Hearts game or the Bratislava game, and that's so harsh on Bernardo because he's playing so well. Personally, I don't mind it because I think Engels has been brought in. Engels is clearly a star. I heard someone in one of the podcasts saying, I don't know if it was on here actually, Engels is already the best player in Scottish football. And I think there's a fair argument for that, and he's only just in the door. And obviously Callum McGregor, we know how good he is. Real Hatate, there's some question marks over Hatate, but Hatate was brilliant against Bratislava. So I don't actually mind the whole idea of Bernardo, as harsh as it is, having to just wait his time a little bit and coming off the bench. But he's just one example. There's so many players we've got there. that we want to see, and Rodgers is just going to have to try and find a way to get them that game time while continuing to win, Tony. But we're not going to see 8 changes again.
No, he'll never make 8 changes again. I think that was a lesson learned. He had to turn to his bench in the hour mark, and thankfully there was enough time to rescue the situation. So, and I think Adam Idah touched upon it about slight lack of respect to Falkirk and what they did. Don't know if that's true, and I don't know if the manager would have liked the player admitting that, but he seemed a bit refreshingly honest in his assessment of that, didn't he? I think Celtic were taken aback by how good Falkirk were, going 43 games unbeaten in League One, and then 5 games unbeaten in the Championship tells you they've got a bit about them. So, but they caught Celtic cold twice, didn't they? And
McGlynn is a very, very good manager.
Yeah, he's an astute manager, and he's clearly did his homework on Celtic as well, and probably would have said to them, they'll make changes, and he is astute, and he would have said, probably make changes here, here, and here. Here's where we might get joy. So he would have guessed some of the team as well, like Vi coming in, Trusty coming in. Maybe not so much Welsh, because he probably, I like that everybody would have thought Scales would have started, but they were targeting Vi, Trusty, and Welsh, weren't they? And Ralston for that matter, because it was an untried back four. The minute they saw that team sheet, I think John McGlynn went, right, here's where we can get a bit of joy, and fair play to them. They had a right go, which is what was refreshing to see. They came when they had a go, and they deservedly went ahead 2-1. You can't say that at half-time Celtic didn't deserve to be trailing. They did.
Yeah.
And but they had enough quality to come from the bench to dig themselves out that hole. And as far as Engels is concerned, you just looked at them, even when he came on against Rangers. You just knew there was a footballer there. And then he announces himself on the Champions League stage against Slovan Bratislava. This guy's 21. He's 21 years of age. And he looked as calm and composed and assured and mature as anybody I've seen in that midfield role in a long, long time at Celtic. And long may it continue.
David comparing him to Jota in terms of professionalism and mental discipline. A few more comments before we go. Gordon asking whether we're going McCowan and Bernardo for St Johnstone. I don't see it. I don't think he's going to make wholesale changes from the normal first team. He'll make changes from the team that started against Falkirk, but I think it'll be pretty much full strength for St Johnstone because it's a big game. Hazel wondering if Naropski's better than Welsh. For me, yeah. I would have started Naropski rather than Welsh. Nothing against Stephen Welsh. I would just like to have seen Naropski because I think there is some sort of player there, but there's question marks over whether his fitness, basically, and whether he's able to stay injury-free. Gary's asking about SPFL Invincibles too soon. No, Gary, it's not, because I think I had this down for that 3 weeks ago, guys. Either you want to jump on board at this stage?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Kevin?
Invincibles, I think I just want, I'll just be happy if we get the title.
Yeah. So will I.
I just think that I want Celtic to win the title. Obviously, we lose a couple of games. That's what happened. It just sometimes happens. I think sometimes Celtic fans, and I'm included, we lose a game fair and square because we didn't play well. And it's like, oh no, what's happening? What's the underlying causes for this? We should never have lost. And sometimes you just got to say we just didn't play well, for whatever reason. And the opposition played really well. It's allowed.
Yeah, it's allowed.
Yeah. John's wondering when the next Grand Old Team podcast is, guys.
We've already done one, myself and Kevin, and it was Love Street 1986 and all that. That'll be up at some point this week, so tune into that. We enjoyed that one, didn't we, Kevin?
Yep.
So, it'll be up some point this week. So
quite a good reaction to the shows, hasn't there?
Oh, there's been a tremendous reaction, yeah, but I think it's just because it's a couple of old doofers talking a lot of rubbish. You know what I mean? There's someone say that limp down amnesia lane as opposed to a stroll down memory lane, isn't that right, Kevin? yeah, something like that. So yeah, but no, I've been particularly blown away by the reaction to it. It's been well received, and you know the mind and the memory can sometimes play tricks on you, but as Kevin said in one of the podcasts, there's always the great backups to the Celtic Wiki, which is a wonderful website. So they can
Great website.
Have holes and gaps if you know, for specific games and memories and stuff. So it's always a good go-to. But most of the time, what we speak about, it's all up there, isn't it, Kevin? And we kind of know because either both of us were there or we have specific memories of certain things. So, but no, the reaction to it's been really good, and I say along with that continue. I think it's number 8. So who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought we'd have got to 8? But yeah, we're going to keep going because we're just going to pick.
I've just actually fished out a photograph of me as a 7-year-old against Hearts in 1970, and I had been chosen as the Celtic View back then did something weekly called the Celtic Boy. Wee bit sexist. So there was always a kid who was just chosen at random to meet the players before the game and get his picture taken. And I've just fished this out. I'll maybe send it on to you and see if it's if it's worthy of publication, so to speak.
Brilliant.
Fabulous, guys. Thanks for your time today and chatting away. It's appreciated as always. Thanks for watching, everyone. Much appreciated as well. And we'll return tomorrow. Still get plenty of time to build ahead to Saturday's game against St Johnstone. Looking forward to that one. Thanks, everyone. Catch you tomorrow.